Jerusalem. The name itself brings up so many powerful images, right? For thousands of years, it's been called a city of peace, and yet it remains one of the most stubborn, most complex sources of conflict in the entire world. It's a place of prayer and deep history, but also one of division and constant struggle.
So, you have to ask, how can one place mean so much to so many different people? And why has that shared love for it become the very thing that fuels such a painful and long-running conflict? Well, let's peel back the layers and try to understand what's going on.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with Jerusalem's ancient roots. Then we'll dive into why it's so sacred to three major world religions. From there, we'll track the history of the modern conflict, look at a really core ideological goal that's driving it, and then finally, we'll look at the actions on the ground that are shaping its future as we speak.
Okay, first let's just take a moment to absorb the sheer scale of its history. We're talking about one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on the planet, with a history that goes back over 5,000 years. This is so much more than ancient stone. For millions of people, this is literally the spiritual center of their world, the place where heaven and earth are believed to meet.
And that brings us to the absolute core of everything. To even begin to understand Jerusalem, you have to get this. It is uniquely, profoundly sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The modern fight over land and politics, it's all built on this deep foundation of shared and often clashing holiness. So let's see what this city means to each faith.
For Muslims, Jerusalem is home to what's known as the Haram al-Sharif, or the Noble Sanctuary. This sacred area includes the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest site in all of Islam, and that stunning, iconic Dome of the Rock. It's revered as the place where the Prophet Muhammad made his miraculous night journey and ascended to heaven. It was even the very first direction of prayer, the first Qibla for Muslims.
Now, for Christians, Jerusalem is the actual stage for the most central events of their faith. This is where you'll find the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Pilgrims travel from every corner of the globe to come to this one spot, which is believed to be the site of Jesus' crucifixion, his burial, and his resurrection.
And for Jews, Jerusalem is the undisputed center of their spiritual universe. This is the site of the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples stood thousands of years ago. Today, the most sacred place they can access is the Western Wall, which is a last remaining part of that ancient temple complex. Inside that temple was a place called the Holy of Holies, which is said to have held the foundation stone, the very spot where tradition says the creation of the world began.
So just think about that. You have three huge world religions, each with a claim to holiness that goes to the very core of their beliefs, all concentrated in one incredibly small ancient city. And we're not talking about neat separate neighborhoods here. In some cases, these holy sites are literally built one on top of the other. This intense overlap, both geographically and spiritually, is the reality that sits underneath this entire conflict.
So, with all that shared sacred history, how in the world did this space turn into a modern political battlefield? Well, the roots of the conflict we see today really took hold over the last 100 years or so. Let's walk through some of the key turning points.
The source material we're looking at traces the start of this to 1897 with the First Zionist Congress, which was a movement to establish a Jewish homeland. 50 years later, in 1947, Israel declared its independence and ended up controlling the western half of Jerusalem. But the real game changer was 1967. That's when Israel captured and occupied East Jerusalem, which brought the old city and all of its holy sites under Israeli control for the very first time. And then, by 1980, Israel officially declared the whole city united as its capital, a declaration that most of the world still doesn't recognize.
But you know, this isn't just about political history and timelines. The source material we're examining points to a very specific religious and ideological goal that it says is a central driver of the whole conflict.
Just listen to this quote. It's attributed to Israel's very first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. He said, "There is no value for Israel without Jerusalem, and no value for Jerusalem without the temple." Wow. That's an incredibly powerful statement, right? It directly ties the identity of the modern state not just to the city, but very specifically to the ancient temple.
So what is this temple he's talking about? According to the source material, this is about the prophesied Third Temple. It describes this belief, held by some, that for a messianic age to begin, a new temple has to be rebuilt on the exact spot where the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock are standing right now.
And here, you see the tension in its sharpest form. It's one piece of land, but it has two names and two visions for its future that seem almost impossible to reconcile. For Muslims, it's the Haram al-Sharif, a living, breathing, sacred place of worship. For many Jews, it's the Temple Mount, the historical site of their ancient temples and the focus of a deep desire for spiritual rebuilding. One space, two powerful and competing claims.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract historical debate. This conflict is being fought through real, tangible actions that are changing the face of the city. So let's look at what the source material reports is happening right now, on the ground. The source material we're referencing details several actions it says are aimed at changing the city's character. These reported actions include building settlements and demolishing some Islamic heritage sites. And critically, it also describes extensive excavations happening underneath the Eteral Sharif, or Temple Mount. The source alleges that one purpose of these digs is to potentially weaken the foundations of the mosque standing above.
So at the end of the day, this is where we're left. We have a city with this immense, almost crushing historical weight that's sacred to three different faiths. Its past is fought over, its present is full of tension, and its future is being actively rewritten by these competing visions. And it all leads back to one really, really difficult question. Can this city, so holy to so many, ever find a way to be a peaceful home for everyone? That remains Jerusalem's greatest challenge.